Hi, and welcome to the Newsmaker of the Month. And of course, this month we're rubbing shoulders with Goa's very own Ironman, Wilbert Egipsy. Hi, Wilbert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Wilbert, first of all, congratulations on completing the Ironman at the Philippines. So, how was the feeling as soon as you crossed that finish line?
Relieved. Okay, I was quite relieved, and because like I mentioned to you, I enjoyed the training. And the training was quite good fun and everything. So I think it was quite relieving that that training comes to fruition at the end. So so it was exciting. Yeah. Now I'm just tired, but apart from that, yeah, it was good.
So, when you actually crossed the finish line, what was the feeling like? Did you want to kneel down and look up in the skies, or what was it?
Yeah, so when I was training, I thought of all that, kneel down and scream or blow kisses or have a real great picture moment. But then, when I was finishing, everything's so tired. I raised my arms, I think, and my hands were just tired. So I think I think it was just relief more than anything else. Relief that the training's paid off, and all the people that had helped me, I haven't let anybody down, and I'm like, that. So I think that was the moment. It was just relief, and stuff, and it was good. It was nice. It was mostly that, just relief that everything. Then after you're done, you're like, this has happened and that has happened. But the enormity of Ironman and all that is secondary. It's I set out to do something, I trained for it, finished it, mission accomplished.
Good. So they say the time limit for the Ironman competition is 17 hours.
Yeah.
And you finished it well before that.
Yeah, generally. So I think initially my training and everything was supposed to be I wanted to do it close to about 14 hours. But then with the rain, because the minute the rain sets in, obviously I was slow on the swim, but the cycling part can be quite a thing because it's very self-supported. So if you have a puncture or if you fall down or whatever, you have to look after yourself. I mean, obviously there are roaming mechanics and stuff. So I took it very easy on the cycle part because the rain set in quite a bit, and there was about half an inch of water on the road. But luckily, it was a beautiful highway. Even you can go also, highways are great. So there was no potholes or whatever. If there were potholes, definitely, because the minute you have a puncture, in the rain, it's going to take you between 10 and 20 minutes to repair something. So that can be a little. So I mean, 15:44 is what I finished in. Because initially I wanted, because with the training and everything, was the whole point of doing it well. I'd never thought of the cutoff, but then as time went on, I was like, I'm slow here, I'm slow there, and all that. Because once you finish everything and get to the run, you're left with very little, sort of dumb, very energy in your legs. So you're just like, let's just finish this now. So it was good. I mean, I was happy with everything overall. And and I had chosen the course because it was a tough course. It wasn't, it is one of the tougher ones in Asia. Because it is a rolling course and it's quite bumpy, so it's good.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the Ironman competition. What does it consist of?
So it's a 3.8 kilometer swim.
Okay.
Followed by, then you have a transition, you change and stuff like that. And 180 kilometer bike ride.
Okay.
And then you change again, and then it's 42 kilometer run. So it starts between 6 and 7. Usually none of these things start in the dark. Obviously, it ends in the dark, but so it was. So that's what it is. And then, depending on what the course is, because there are some courses in Europe where the cutoff is 16 hours.
Okay.
Those are obviously flatter courses and stuff, but they tell you in advance what it is. So even when you're choosing a course, because you don't need to qualify for this, you effectively just need to pay the entry fee, and they look at you and they send you questions before, especially for the full Ironman. What have you done before? And because I'd done 2 half Ironmans before, the half Ironman is exactly half of this. So 1.9 kilometer swim, 90 kilometer bike ride, and 21 kilometer run. So, and that's the same one they have in Goa.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what it is. So so you just have to typically, get in, qualify, and then do the event.
As Wilbert was telling us about the Ironman competition and exactly what he had to do, it seems kind of easy, but I don't think so. So let's ask him more and see exactly what he had to do to get ready for all this. So Wilbert, how was your training session like? When did you start?
Okay, so I think I've been thinking about it from about June of last year. And one of the things that I really had to improve was my swim, because swim is very technical. So I'd signed up with a coach, and he started to get my stroke and all that stuff sorted out. But I think we had properly kind of started training from about January of this year.
Okay.
Yeah, which in hindsight, a lot of people are like, oh, you take 6-7 months at least. But it was okay because I had a background in marathon running, and I've done quite a few. I've done the 2 half Ironmans, so I knew that it was very important to understand things like, whether it's the swimming or the cycling, try and be consistent. Like, it's not a speed thing because it's endurance, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing that I really needed help with was strength, because my upper body strength is not as good as my lower body. So I signed up with a strength coach who was also helping me with nutrition.
Okay.
So nutrition was a big thing as well, because you really need to watch what you eat, whether it's during training and even on the course itself.
Okay.
Also, I sweat quite a bit. So the weather in Philippines is very similar to Goa. So, which is also why I chose it, because training during April, May, it's kind of horrible, but you go through that, and then the race becomes much easier.
Okay.
So so I think I took the whole thing as a job that I don't get paid for. So because if you take it like, oh, it's a pastime, it's not going to happen. So I made sure that I was able to regulate my work and everything. And obviously I don't have kids, I don't really have a big family, so I didn't have those added responsibilities as opposed to a lot of people. So I was lucky that way. And so I started working with the nutrition course on my own. I started reading and I started analyzing. Like, I would write down what I ate, how I felt the next day, how I felt on a run, on a swim. And I went to a very portion control kind of diet without going very heavy with certain things, because also I was very cognizant of the fact that whatever I ate now, I needed to control it to Philippines.
Okay.
So even with Philippines, I took an Airbnb, so I was able to cook for myself and make my own meals and stuff like that. So very protein heavy, so very eggs and chicken and tuna and stuff that I know that I'll get there as well. Also, the guys that sponsored this was Century Tuna, so we got a free can, so that helped. And I think discipline is kind of like an overused term, but I think you have to be disciplined in anything that you do. You want to accomplish something, you need to be disciplined. So it was good, and I do enjoy the training. So it wasn't for me, oh my god. So certain days it was like, oh god. But overall, when I think of it, I have a smile on my face, especially like the swimming part, because I would have spent 2 hours in the ocean. But that's 2 hours in Bambolim, which again, we're quite lucky. I was quite lucky to have access to something like Bambolim, where, for a major part, it's safe. It's not like other seas, like other oceans or whatever, where, this can happen, that can happen, whatever. You just need, and I would make sure that I would speak to the lifeguards, speak to friends that knew tides, and make sure that I got out before 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So I wasn't messing around with, you can't mess around with the ocean.
Correct.
And that was good. So, and I do some work in Cancun as well. So days when I couldn't do stuff in Bambolim, I would swim in Palolem, Holang, which are very similar sort of bays that are very safe. So, and it was good because I didn't have to train during the monsoons. And I also went to Pede quite a bit.
Okay.
The swimming pool at Pede.
Okay.
Which again, I live in Baga, so that was quite good. And so that was the
So
training.
most of your training was done in Goa itself?
Oh yeah, all my training was done in Goa. Training is difficult to explain that way, but it's just, you know what you're doing between 15 and 20 hours a week. In addition to stretching, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of Pilates, you need to watch your core, it's just everything. You just really can't you can't be having a hangover and running or whatever. So I just stayed away from all that. So.
Okay. Welcome back to Newsmaker of the Month. Today we're talking to the Ironman, Wilbert Egipsy. Wilbert, now tell me, what was your childhood like? Totally crazy like this? Swimming, running, climbing trees, falling off trees?
So I grew up in, I was born in Velsau, but I grew up in Dubai I was there till the age of 10. And then I was in the boarding from the age of 10 in Pune.
Okay.
Till then in my college and everything there. So I think I was quite a hyperactive child. So I was one of those. Because again, with Dubai and everything, so I think studies was a major part. So when I was in Pune, obviously boarding, so we did stuff, but I never excelled at it. And then when I was in college, I played football quite a bit and hockey and stuff like that. But again, never excelled at anything. And I enjoyed playing different things. And then when I was in Dubai, I worked there from about 2001 to 2009. And we used to play five-a-side quite a bit and stuff like that. And I always felt this thing where I needed to play and I needed to. So obviously in your 20s, you don't get your balance right with a lot of things and you drink too much and other things take precedence. And I always like to work. So work was always my thing. But I never got that balance right. And then I came back to Goa. I was in Jakarta for a year and then I came here back to Goa. And then I found that something was missing and I needed to get a balance right. And a friend of mine got me into, this was about 2013, I was about just 33 at the time, into Muay Thai, which is Thai kickboxing. And that was a game changer for me because then I realized that martial arts is not about aggression and punching and all that. It's about control and using your hips and core and everything. And I found that really understanding technicalities of how to move your ankle when you're trying to kick, or even when you're punching somebody, the bar is not coming from your arms or your shoulders, is coming from your hips. I was like, oh, this is phenomenal. And then I got into running because when you do things like Muay Thai and stuff like that and then running is a very, sedentary in comparison and all that. And I kept up with the Muay Thai a little bit and all that. But then I found the running was good and then I did the, and at that time, the Vasco Sports Club and stuff, they had started the Goa River Marathon and all that. And a couple of friends were doing it in 2013, December. So I was like, oh, let's just do it. And I was like, oh, let's do the 10K because I think I'd run one 10K before that. They're like, no, let's do the 21K. We're going to spend money. Let's just make. And you're like, oh, you can walk and all that. And I think I enjoyed the running. I died at the end a little bit, but I decently finished it just within 2 hours, 10 minutes, which was quite happy for me. And I liked that. And then the same time, somebody had said that there was a triathlon that was happening in Goa. Enduro Sports was doing it that year in 2014 Jan. And this friend was like, man, you just need to learn to swim and that's it. And I think I used to smoke at the time. And I got really paranoid about the fact that I would die in the ocean or whatever. So I stopped smoking and learned to swim for that. And that was an Olympic distance. So that's 1.5K swim, 40K bike ride and 10K run. And I was already running and all that. And I was slow and coming out of the water and everything, but I enjoyed it. It was a tough thing and all that. And then I started to really get into running, cycling. At that time, I started to consult with a few places and stuff like that. And so then I realized that if I was going to do this, I needed to stay as a freelancer, which is not obviously ideal, but then at least in terms of time, I needed time to be my own. And then I did my first full marathon in 2015 in Bombay. Loved it. And I started to find this excitement. And then again, living in Goa. Goa is a great place to do all these things, whether it's raining, I don't really have cold here, but It's just a great place to run, cycle, swim. Like my first few swims and all were in Baga, and I learned to swim in a friend's 12-meter pool. So just churn it out, because a lot of these things are just like, I mean, it's not fun to talk about it, but just hours and hours and hours of doing stuff. And then I started to meet friends, and I remember when I did my first Olympic distance stuff. Like my first 3 Olympics were all on a mountain bike, because I was like, I'm not going to spend on stuff like that. And by then, the scene started to change quite a bit. There was a Dr. Prasanna in 2015. I think he was the first Goan to do a half Ironman. And people were talking about it. And then I had a friend, Nisha Maggaonkar, who's a good swimmer and stuff. So she's done about 5 international Ironmans. And we started to train together, and she got me out of the thing. She was like, stop your mountain bike, get a road bike. And I started to find that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the training, I enjoyed the camaraderie. And it was fun because also I think you become a better person. You start to think about being clean, being organized, having a bath, all these things, because hygiene and everything, because it's not just about getting up, running, cycling. You need to, and then, you finish something, you're sweaty, put some deo. No, it's not. You need to be, very careful about everything that you do. You can't, and then I would have friends who, some days I would be in Baga, I would come down to Bambolim, swim, go to a friend's place, have a shower, swim, then meet somebody in Panjim for work or whatever, and then come back to Baga. Because you can't mess around with things like this. This is a sustainable lifestyle. So I'm 42 now. I can do this in my 50s and my 60s. And I was like, that became the challenge. That became the exciting thing. It's not about being fast or anything. It's about having a sustainable lifestyle that I can continue into my 50s, 60s, whether I have a family or no, or whatever. And, again, we overused term, but being a good person, being a bit, so all these things allow you, the sweat and the anxiety and the stress of training allows you to just be better, and then with food and this and that, I think it just makes you a better person.
So Wilbert, now I'm definitely sure after a lot of people watching this program, they'll be inspired to do some physical activity, but then at the same time their workload, their study schedule, something or the other comes in the way. So how do you manage?
What's really important is to be organized about it. Like people tell me, oh man, I drank last night, I got up the next morning. I say, no, don't do that. That's not fun. Whatever you do needs to be organized, needs to be structured. Whether you do it yourself or you do it to people. I mean, there are coaches out there, but there are also enough of training plans and all that there. Because also what happens with the training plans, and what I think it is that when you do this in a structured way, because you can't do work unstructured, right? You cannot be successful at anything if you're unstructured. Whether you're a chef or this or driver, you can't be a little driver and doing makeup or whatever. You need to be, structure is very important. It's not a very cool word, structure, discipline and all that, but it's not a marketing term at all. But these are things that you need to do. So whether it's running in the afternoon, people say, oh, you run in the afternoon. In between, I remember I needed to practice for Pune, which was a hot race, because I was running at 1, 2, and I would wear a jacket, like a fleece long sleeve. I would run at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You're like, oh my God, you'll die. But you won't die. All you need to do is you need to hydrate. Where I would be drinking every 45 minutes, I'm drinking every 20 minutes. So you need to understand this, and there's enough of resources and books, and there's some amazing books and podcasts. And I spend a lot of time listening to other stuff. For training, I'll go to Chandreshwar, which is in Kepe, and it's a beautiful hill where you run for 4.5 kilometers, but at the top there's a beautiful temple. Or you go down to Mont in Margao. There's a church there, there's a chapel there, and it's great. These things are stunning, because then you realize why people build these things, because the energy there is great, but also you're running up, so you're struggling, but then when you're there, you're like, serenity and all that. So yeah, excuses are excuses, but again, like I'm saying, right, you can't just be, half drunk or half exhausted and then running. No, you need to, and sleep. one thing that I've not mastered is I don't sleep very well.
Well, we were in conversation with the newsmaker of the month, Wilbert Egipsy, Goa's very own Ironman. And Wilbert, wishing you all the very best for your future endeavors. And let's catch up with another Ironman expedition of yours, and let's see what you work up with. All the very best to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you take care.
Thank you.
Thank you
for your time.